The Miami Hurricanes fought the Indiana Hoosiers for 60 minutes, but let's talk about why the Canes couldn't get the national championship over the finish line. And let's assemble the squad.
You're talking ball with the ACC squad. From Florida State to North Carolina, from Syracuse to Miami, and from NC State to California, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming ACC weekend. Hang on, it could get loud, it could get heated, and it will definitely be fun. Squad up, you're part of the ACC squad.
It's always sad when college football season has come to an end, but a heck of a national championship game to break down. You know, I'm not in the best mood this week. I am Alex Dono from Locked On Canes. We got Jackson Holzer from Locked On Syracuse, Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack, Morgan Thomas from Locked On Clemson, JJ Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils, who may or may not be suing me over the Darian Mensah transfer, and Isaac Shade from Locked On Tar Heels. Thank you all so much for making the ACC squad your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on this loaded episode, we'll talk about the outlook for next ACC football season. I'm hoping top to bottom it's a better year. I mean, the ACC did get a team into the national championship game, but it was a weird 2025 in ACC football. We're hoping for a better one overall in 2026. But let's talk about this national championship game where I contend, and I talked about this already this week with Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. Miami obviously played very, very hard and gave Indiana a tougher test than the other teams they faced in the college football playoff. But you can't make too many mistakes against a team that will never beat themselves. And this game ultimately decided by about 5 or 6 plays, including a couple of really, really tough special teams gaffes by Miami, including a blocked punt for a touchdown. But I'm going to let Jackson Holzer buy the first round on this one. Your big takeaways on a Miami college football playoff run that comes down to a 27-21 loss against Indiana.
My big takeaway was that I feel for Miami fans. Like, genuinely. Like, that was a very, very difficult, tough loss. And it was in the national championship. So we were talking before the show, and Isaac mentioned how you have to be appreciative of the season that Miami has had. And they have had a tremendous season. They deserve credit for that. And they fought better than anyone else against Indiana. And they had a shot. If I told any Miami fan before the game, you're going to have about $140. You're going to have to go down the field. You need a touchdown to win the national title. I think every Miami fan, knowing how difficult this matchup was going to be, would have taken that scenario. And they got that scenario. And it's unfortunate that just one mistake ended it. So my takeaway is that Miami had a phenomenal season. They had a phenomenal playoff. They deserve all the credit in the world for that. But Indiana was simply the better football team.
I'm going to say this. There is, as much as people don't really put into context what happens in the world around us, Indiana football may be Indiana football historically. However, in this year, of their final 8 games, 5 of their last 8, including 2 playoff games, were decided by 30 points or more. Jeez. And they're undefeated. So that means they're beating people by 30 or more often than they are beating people by less than 29 or so. This team, at the end of the day, you have to give Indiana their credit. The thing that Miami was known for all throughout this playoff run, dominating up front, controlling the clock, controlling the ball, and it was real sparse, and you had to make something out of it every time you touched the ball. Well, Kurt Cignetti said turnabout is in fact fair play, because this was, it was a masterclass of crystal ball in essence. They held the ball. I believe the time of possession was 36 minutes or so to Miami's 23.
I can give that to you exactly, Kenton. Indiana held it for 36 minutes and 24 seconds. Miami had it for 23 minutes and 36 seconds.
Yeah, that's the type. That'll do it. that'll do it, I mean, and then on top of that, you get a punt block in this game as well. Again, Miami has nothing to hang their heads about. Miami played a fantastic game for the most part, aside from a couple of crucial miscues, aside from the game-sealing interception and the punt block. What more can you ask for? You had Mark Fletcher's longest run of the year in this game. Mm-hmm. You were going to hold Indiana to 20 points offensively. 20 points. I mean, you're holding a Heisman winner to 20. Mark Fletcher is running wild. You can't really ask for too much more. It's just unfortunate that they went up against what is, in fact, a buzzsaw that we all knew of Indiana football. Who couldn't have predicted this coming into the season?
Yeah, 2 years ago, who wouldn't have thought coming off a 3-9 season for Indiana? A remarkable job Cignetti has done there.
All the pictures that people were throwing around of like, hey, here's a picture of Indiana's football stadium 2 years ago. And so, I mean, it's wild how empty it was. Dono, you mentioned as you were setting this up how this is a fundamentally sound team that doesn't beat themselves. It almost became like this cruel irony for Indiana where they had that 2nd and 1 to basically ice the game because the Canes had to take their first time out. And basically you get that yard. I mean, it's not quite victory formation, but just about, plus you kick and but they get the false start and then it flips to the other side. And I forget if it was 2nd or 3rd down here in real time, but there was the bad roughing the passer. Poor man, I felt bad for Carson Beck. He was ate up on that, but it was almost this cruel irony of Indiana is right there on the doorstep, going to win. And then this fundamentally sound team that never beats themselves has these 2 penalties that allows Mr. Beck to march down the field and do what he did to Ole Miss in this shining walk-off moment. And I was like, holy cow, this is going to be a crazy story for Miami to wreck the Hoosier dream story. And I thought that's where it was headed, and that was going to be the storyline. But man, we all know how it ended up. But gosh, that what a crazy ending to this game.
When I look at this game and I say what happened here, at the end of the day, I want to acknowledge more than anything else, Miami's keys to the game, they accomplished the vast majority of them. The things that everybody around the nation said they had to do, they accomplished most of those things. Everybody said that Bain and Mezzador had to be game records. Were they not?
They were.
Did those book it? That was more pressure.
I want them at 2. I want them.
Yeah. And Mendoza specifically shouted them out post game. Like that was one of the first things he said.
Yeah, and hey, Jackson, stop it. Bain's arms are too short. He's a little too stubby. Let him fall somewhere in the mid-teens. Maybe a big cat team in a cold weather play. Never mind, we ain't got to talk about that. But in all seriousness, this was a game in which Miami accomplished most of the things that people said that they would have to. The only thing that they didn't was the time possession thing. Mark Fletcher ran the ball very well. Even if you take away that 50-something yarder, it was not like they did precious little outside of that, especially in the second half. First half, different story. First half, absolutely bottled up. Yeah. But the biggest thing is, and I know people are going to say, oh, it's a moral victory, and we don't take moral victories. The reality of this is, down double digits at half, they continue to fight. They continue to persist. How many teams have we seen that were 10 points down to Indiana or even closer, but they were down, and then the second half comes over, and they absolutely get steamrolled? Mario and his crew deserve credit for the adjustments that they made. It just so happens to be that in that big moment, Carson Beck said, time for a Beck ball. Time for one of those old-fashioned, give me that old-time religion. I just need to lob one to a corner here and threw up that good toaster strudel.
And in the big moment, Fernando Mendoza did deliver on 4th and 5.
Oh my gosh, did he?
Wow. And I mean, it was unreal. We'll be seeing that highlight forever as college football fans. I thought it was noteworthy as we kept talking about going into the game. In the college football playoffs, the 2 games prior, this was a quarterback in Fernando Mendoza that had more touchdowns than incompletions, right? As we said, 8 touchdowns to 5 incompletions. And if you're Miami, the guy had 11 incompletions in the title game and didn't throw a touchdown pass. It wasn't until that 4th and 5 scramble that he was able to get into the end zone and make that miraculous play to put Indiana in a really comfortable spot. I was watching it with friends, and throughout that fourth quarter, kept thinking, there hasn't been a turnover in this game. And football fundamentals 101, you want to win the turnover battle. And yes, you had the big special teams block punt if you're Indiana, but finally they get the lone turnover on the game in Carson Beck's interception that ultimately sealed it.
Dono, what were you feeling? I've been wanting to ask you this. We're 4 minutes into the third quarter, down 10-0, but like just before the 57-yard touchdown. Kind of where were your emotions? Where were your thoughts at that moment?
I was genuinely concerned that the game would get away from Miami, even though it was reaching a point where the defense was clamping down and making some stops. But until Fletcher woke the offense up, at that point, I didn't have any reason to believe Miami could score on that defense. Like, Indiana's first half defensively was so dominant with the way they were swarming to the football. I mean, Miami had a couple of their signature short yardage situations in that first half where usually just by sheer bulk, they're able to get a yard on 3rd and down, but they couldn't do it against Indiana, and nobody was open. I was talking with Kenton this week that, you could measure the space Indiana's DBs were giving Miami, not in feet or in yards, but in millimeters. Like, it was such tight coverage. The referees were letting them play a little bit. I thought that on both sides there maybe could have been a few more pass interferences that could have been called, but they were letting them play. DBs were on receivers like glue. And so, that Fletcher touchdown kind of opened things up for Miami's offense and gave them some more confidence. And then Fletcher continued to step up. Malachi Toney stepped up. But before that touchdown, Isaac, I was really starting to lose any hope that Miami could even be in that game.
It's Morgan's fault. It's Clemson's fault. It's Dabo's fault. This was supposed to be your year to be the 16-0 undefeated sweetheart. So Miami fans, lay this loss at nobody else's feet but Dabo Swinney, because it was on you. You had the quarterback, you had the top 5 edge rusher, you had the top 5 defensive tackle all in there. And next thing you know, we look up like, wait a minute, they're playing Penn State in the Pinstripe Bowl? What is this? What is it? They're playing football in a baseball stadium? I personally blame Morgan for this loss for the ACC. I mean, maybe it's just me. But I'm holding your feet to the fire on this with Mr. Thomas.
I guess I deserve it since I've been skipping out on you guys for so many weeks now. Welcome back. I'm glad to be here. Thank you. I would say, Dono, I love the game. I did feel like that Miami was on the edge of losing it, but it was really refreshing to see them reset after halftime and just drop a big 57-yarder, as Gibbs said. Like, you got a longest run they did all year. I am not going to be that sympathetic in the sense that you paid a lot of money for Carson Beck and that's what you got, and we knew that that's what he was going to do. So, I mean, was I hoping to see Michael Irvin give the belt to an actual Indiana fan? Yes, I would have paid for that. Yes, I would have. But it didn't happen. Whatever Ray Lewis whispered to Carson Beck, we may never know. But unfortunately, he kind of made a big boo-boo at the very end. But was he worth $5 million or however much you paid for him? I don't know. One thing I'll say is that this is the new age of college football. Any team can be in it at any moment. You mentioned Indiana playing with no fans just a few years ago to now being where they are. Miami desperately wanting to get back to where they are. Now you have no Ohio State. You have no SEC team. You have Clemson's down. I mean, all of the ones that the teams that you'd normally expect to be in this weren't. And honestly, I'm okay with it because if it moves college football forward, and provides games like that, like you mentioned, JJ, where Mendoza just had finally the Heisman moment. He won the Heisman, didn't actually have a Heisman moment, and then he had it. And then they just panned to his parents, and that was just like, okay, I hate college football for a lot of reasons, but I love college football for that.
Yeah, and Mendoza, for as much as Miami tried to frustrate him as much as any other team has this year, you could not keep him down for 4 quarters. I mean, the drive that he engineered and ultimately he finished it on that quarterback draw for the 12-yard touchdown. And according to Miami's defense coordinator, they knew the QB draw was coming. They were trying to communicate. Wesley Basaint, Miami's linebacker, couldn't get the call out to enough guys before the play, but Mendoza was tremendous. They had to convert 2 fourth downs on that drive, including the touchdown run to get there. So that was his Heisman moment. I will put a little respect on Carson Beck's name, though. For as much as I can fault him for the game-sealing interception, Miami wouldn't have been in that game if not for the fourth quarter drive that he put together against Ole Miss. So you have to take the good with the bad. It was a double. We got the full spectrum of the Carson Beck experience. We had the good in the game winner. Yeah, they had the good in the game winner against Ole Miss, and then we had the flip side of that in the national title game. But, Miami makes a deep run this year. We'll talk about who could be next season. I want to get outlooks not only on Miami, but on NC State, on Clemson, on Syracuse, who I'm sure is going to contend for an ACC football championship next year, on Duke, obviously with uncertainty over the quarterback situation, and on North Carolina. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on the Locked On ACC squad. Guys, tax season is back, but it doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file it for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Thank you so much to the Everydayers. And guys, make sure you're checking out the Everydayer Club. Supercast.com, lockedonpodcast.supercast.com. You can find Everydayer clubs for all the amazing shows, get exclusive ad-free episodes, get Discord chat access, one-on-one text messages, a discount on the amazing Locked On merch store. I mean, people were asking me for years, where can I get my Locked On merch? You can get it now and at a 15% discount when you're a member of the Everydayer Club. So you can get insight on all the teams that we cover here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And I want Morgan Thomas from Locked On Clemson to buy the first round on this one. Ups and downs for the Clemson Tigers this year. There's a lot of Dabo Swinney narratives out there about adapting to modern college football and all that. What's been the big buzz on Clemson's football offseason so far, and what kind of a bounce back do you expect for next year?
Losing the Penn State game was pretty frustrating all around. They won the last 4 games, won South Carolina, which we thought righted a lot of wrongs, but then went into the Pinstripe Bowl, as Kenton mentioned, in a baseball stadium and lost in the Yankee Stadium. But, the biggest thing that was glaring from that is that they just have no depth. And a lot of their reason for no depth is multiple years of Dabo Swinney only replenishing with high school players. And then those players not sticking around as long as he would have liked. The biggest kind of reality check this offseason has been maybe graduation rate being at 98% is not going to be what the new era of college football needs anymore. And that's unfortunate because student athlete seems to be getting more fuzzy as we continue to go. As you mentioned, Carson Beck last segment, he made a joke. He doesn't even attend classes. So, it's hard to say what you have to do or don't have to do nowadays. But what I will say is that Clemson actually went into the transfer portal and tried to use it. But it feels after now 2 weeks into it, you can no longer enter into the portal. But there's a lot of players still out there. Dabo went and got a large amount of defensive players and one offensive player. It feels as if he's still trying to, he's like the newbie to the club. It's like he's trying it, but still trying to play the transfer portal in a Dave Ramsey sense, trying to be extremely cautious with his money and doesn't want to overpay anybody and doesn't want to chase anybody down the pocketbook, and so the worst thing that's happened, the biggest headline that happened last week is that Luke Farrelly, this is not public knowledge till tomorrow, but the prize pick linebacker Luke Farrelly was given a text message from Pete Golding on Friday and said, "Hey, we'll give you double your what Dabo offered you if you leave." And so he was in class when he got the text message, and now we haven't seen him since. So all signs are pointing
Please tell me, Morgan, please tell me that he literally got up and walked out in the middle of class. Nothing would be better.
I just feel bad because his English 102 teacher may be waiting for him to come back next week, and he's not going to be there. But
they got a pop quiz
if
coming up.
someone gave me that text, I would walk out and be like, "Yep, I'm done."
$2 million or turn in your homework. It's a hard decision, but so that's been the biggest frustration right now on social media is that basically the prized possession, the guy that to go right next to Sammy Brown and have two, the ACC defensive freshman defensive player of the year to join Sammy Brown now is going to Ole Miss because get this, TJ Daughtry left Ole Miss to go to LSU, who used to be TJ Dudley on Clemson's team many years ago, who was caught doing something inappropriate in the locker room and got kicked off the team. So it all comes around full circle. You lose two linebackers out of this whole situation. So at the end of the day, though, I think the fan base is kind of deflated again. We were pretty excited going into week one of the transfer portal. And unfortunately, in a lot of the message boards that I'm involved in, it's a lot more questions still to be answered.
Man,
that's
heck
tough.
of a rundown.
Yeah, that's a very detailed rundown. It is, and
you and Kurt Signetti giving these details out here, Morgan. I love it.
I'm not happy about it. Just like Kirk, I'm not happy.
I'm gonna tell you this, Morgan. I'm gonna tell you this. When you think about these guys and whether or not the graduation rate and all that matters and whatnot, you graduate from college to do what? You get your degree for what reason?
To work, to make money. Yeah.
You get a job to do what?
Make money.
Make money. If somebody offers you 7 figures, you've skipped a step. That one step has been, you go to get the education, to get the job, you get the money, you go home, you build a nice little life with that money. If you can skip a step, you skip a step. But I will say this. Clemson is in a very interesting place right now because, like you said, Dabo is a newbie to using the portal. However, that paw is still on the side of that helmet. Therefore, they still have those expectations. Nobody's ever going to lower their expectations as long as Dabo's at the wheel and say, all right, Clemson should be a 7-win team now because they're not good at the portal. It's still like, no, we remember Sammy Watkins walking through that door. We remember Taj Boyd walking through. We remember Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Dexter Lawrence, all these guys walking through that door. So I think Clemson is in a very precarious situation.
Speaking of all those players, they went and got back the offensive coordinator in Chad Morris, who brought in those players. So bringing back the past.
Full circle indeed. Now, I feel like the futures for Miami and Duke are very much intertwined. And, this situation is constantly evolving. So by the time people hear this, see this, like, apologies if the situation has changed at all. But it's very well publicized. Darian Mensah of Duke is trying to get into the transfer portal. Miami has been the reported destination. Now, like over the weekend, the buzz that apparently Mensah's camp was hearing was that Duke wasn't really going to put up a whole lot of resistance other than negotiate a buyout for his NIL rights. But then Duke woke up Tuesday morning and chose violence. They decided to file a lawsuit against Mensah. And, the part that was immediately updated, JJ, was the judge denied Duke's request on Tuesday morning for an immediate injunction to stop Mensa from entering the transfer portal. So he will be allowed to hit the transfer portal. But then there's still the question of, will Duke be able to allow his NIL rights to transfer to Miami or anywhere else? And what can they do? And then there's sort of the gray area of, can you treat him like an employee or someone who's being paid to play football when he's actually being paid for his marketing rights? So how do you keep him from going somewhere else? I feel like this whole thing is above my head. I'm not a lawyer, but I play one, on TV and radio when I can. But what's the buzz, JJ, at Duke in terms of, is there any chance Darian Mensah could be the quarterback next year? Do you think that ship has sailed?
I mean, that feels like a fever dream at this point. I don't see a world in which that becomes reality, but it has been so strange following this as it unfolds, Dono, because I'm with you. When I'm having these conversations, I have to remind people, I've got a broadcast journalism degree, nothing at all in the world of law, and trying to figure out, what these next steps are. But it is so important. I think this very much so could have an impact on college sports as we see them. That same very judge had to recuse himself from further proceedings because he's a Duke basketball season ticket holder. So this is wild in its own right. But yeah, I think for Duke, they're just wanting to figure out a way to make sure that, Mensa isn't able to walk away from this NIL agreement that they thought would be until December 31st, 2026.
Donald, go ahead, Jackson. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you, Duke, for actually doing the right thing, which is making this a mess. This is exactly what they should be doing. Because I'm all for players getting paid and players being able to seek out what they're worth and players being able to enter the transfer portal. I'm all for that stuff. I've been very, very clear. But I'm also very clear on this, that when you sign a contract, you sign a contract. And Darian Mensah signed a contract that basically locked him into Duke. And so he wants to get out of it, and he wants to go to Miami, which we all know he was tampered with, but the NCAA is not actually an institution. He wasn't tampered with.
Duke is not alleging that, actually. Duke is not alleging that Miami tampered. Duke is alleging that Mensah reached out to them first. I'm just saying.
Duke knows that because Duke knows that it's a losing battle anyway. You can't win a tampering battle because tampering doesn't exist. I mean, tampering does exist, but tampering punishment does not exist. There's no point in going after it. You're going after the money aspect of this, and you want to make this a mess. You want to make Darian Mensah feel it. You want Darian Mensah to be like, okay, man, we paid you. We made you the highest paid quarterback in all of college football last year. You were locked into this contract. We understand you want to go get more money, but you signed this contract. So guess what? We're going to make your life a living, what? That's what we're going to do. You're going to sit through court battles, or you're going to make you hire them. You're going to have to actually pay for them as well. And, our mindset is going to be, we'll drag this out as long as humanly possible. If you want to sit on the bench, you can sit on the bench and return to Duke and actually play, or, you never play for Miami. The point being is that Duke is doing exactly the right thing. That's all I wanted to say.
I will say this. It is not just a possibility that he, either plays for Duke or goes to get paid at Miami. There is a secret third thing where he could go play for Miami and the judge decides, or whatever judge is over this decides, actually, those marketing rights are kind of ironclad. You cannot. He signed an exclusive deal with them, so you're going to play for the love of the game like they used to do back in the 2010s, which was forever ago, But even beyond that, I do want to just acknowledge something that Dono said there. He said, Duke woke up and chose violence. Brother, I'm from the west side of Detroit. If you give me $4 million, if you tell me that I paid $4 million for something that is not coming to fruition, you don't understand the level of violence that would be distributed for that type of money, okay? That's a whole different ballgame. But this is like Jackson said, this is a mess. This is going to be messy. This is not going to be clean. And I think that this won't just be setting the precedent for one thing. I think there will be multiple major precedences that come out of this debacle between Darian and Duke and who can do what and what deals are ironclad and what the pay structure looks like out of those things. Because, objectively speaking, like Jackson said, a signed contract is a signed contract. However, I thought these deals weren't pay for play, but they are pay for play.
That's my thing. That's why, to me, I think the resolution of this dispute is going to be, at worst, Darian Mensah is going to have to pay them $4 million. Like that's what's going to happen. Like, because again, it's not, they cannot force him by NCAA rules, because it's not an employment contract or a football contract. It's not a pay for play contract. It's not a you have to be enrolled at Duke contract. It's a contract of, at the time you signed it, we determined your marketing value to be $4 million per year. I think to get out of it, he or someone's going to have to pay Duke $4 million.
Life wallet.
It doesn't matter for him though, because he'll have to pay 4, but Miami will give him 10.
Exactly. And,
So
and
it's
that's
like,
what I think the resolution is.
So it's like, it's a win-win for him. No, what it really should be is what Kenton said. He should be playing for the love of the game. You can play for Miami all you want, but all the money he makes actually goes to Duke. I'd sign for that. I'd let that happen right now to him.
But
I think Miami fans wouldn't mind it either.
Miami ain't paying him no damn $10 million now. That is crazy.
Oh, no.
That is crazy. Do you even if we talk,
unless there's some sort of guardrails put up, which we all know is not going to happen, give it like 3 to 4 years. It's going to be 10 million easy.
Yeah.
And you're going to start seeing 15 to 20 million. You think this is going to stop?
I don't disagree, but what I'm saying is what we're seeing right now with also how they're coming in with the revenue sharing aspect of it and how much can be allotted to whom. 10 million handicaps everything else. You can't do much if you give out 10 million and try to do the revenue share. I don't think that there's much of a way to survive that.
But I think
there is, because I don't think that this is stopping. I just think that people are going to keep throwing money. Darian Mensah was the highest paid quarterback at $4 million last year, and now all of a sudden he's entering the transfer portal because $4 million is like middle tier money now. In one off season, and 2 years ago it was like you're paying your quarterback like $1.50, like $1.5 million. That's crazy.
Cam Ward didn't make that much.
Like
he was making a couple million.
The money is exploding with these guys. Now all of a sudden you can't get anyone decent in the transfer portal without a minimum of at least $500,000. Like it's just that simple. Like the money is crazy right now. So yeah, 10 million for a quarterback this year, I would not be surprised. 20 million in a couple of years, wouldn't be surprised, because there's nothing stopping it.
Last thing I want to say, because I know we got to get to a break and other people want to be able to talk about their ACC teams and whatnot. Duke's doing the right thing in suing Darian Mensah. Something needs to change with the makeup of the sport, and I hope that everybody sees this. At the end of the day, Darian Mensah is not going to play football for Duke again. That's fine, well and good. He's going to go down in the record books at Duke for all his passing yard. Took Duke to an ACC title. I mean, that was unbelievable what they were able to experience. But something needs to change in this. Hopefully it gets to the point where these athletes do become employees and there can be true value to a contract that you sign. Until that happens, nothing's going to change. And I don't think that happens until we see lawsuits like this brought forward. So that is where I think Duke is in the right here.
All right, well said. Well, I want to get an outlook on North Carolina, Syracuse, NC State. I don't know. Maybe these guys don't want to give it. Well, I'm going to go to Jackson Holzer next, just so you know. You want to keep it right here on the Locked On ACC Squad. Thank you for making us your first listen. And make sure for your next listen, you check out all of our other shows. Morgan Thomas does an awesome job on Locked On Clemson. JJ Jackson on Locked On Blue Devils. Isaac Shade, Locked On Tar Heels. Kenton Gibbs, Locked On Wolfpack. Jackson Holzer, Locked On Syracuse. All right, Jackson, just tell me the starting quarterback for Syracuse next year will not be someone on a lacrosse scholarship. Can we start there?
I can't even hold it together. I can't. I mean, like, it should be Steve Angeli, and then they go get Malachi Nelson, and they're out there saying,
"Bring me Greg Paulus."
Yeah.
And then Malachi Nelson is going to compete to be the starter? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. You know, I was listening to all these talk shows today, and I'm hearing you guys talk about, what a great story Indiana is, right? If Indiana can do it, why can't this school do it? Yeah, it's not happening with Syracuse. It's not happening. Have you seen their transfer portal class? Like, what do you want me to say about their portal class? What have they done? They've swapped bodies. I'll give them that. They swap bodies.
It's a start.
You know
That's
what
it.
is?
Did they get better? Not really. But, if you have a healthy Steve Angeli, maybe you win 6 games. Have you seen their schedule?
Yeah, I have.
I don't know. That's the Syracuse football offseason. It's kind of like kind of like a back to reality. That's what it feels like.
Fran Brown is just too normal. We've seen in these past few years.
No, he hasn't showered enough. That's the problem.
I'm gonna tell you. We've learned in these past few years, your coach has to be a special type of psycho to do this at the highest level. And Fran Brown's just like this normal, chill guy that you're like, seems like the type of guy I want to have a drink with. Of course, after he showers and they win a darn ball game. But he seems like a cool guy, and I think that's the problem. Cignetti never smiles. He's just always on the sideline with that little people's elbow eyebrow. Just
I don't think that's the problem with Fran Brown. I think Fran Brown at Syracuse, if this was 2017, he'd get this team on track. We were talking about the money. I don't. That's my theory with Syracuse right now. I don't think they have the money. I'm looking at these guys they're getting in the transfer portal, and I'm like, I know Fran Brown's background and how he came from Georgia. Do you think that he thinks these players are good enough?
No.
Okay. So then if he doesn't actually, he could say whatever he wants. Any coach can say whatever they want. They're going to all the buzzwords, buzz phrases out here. These guys are not actually good enough. Okay. We can start there. They're not actually good enough. So if you know that, why aren't they good enough? Because you don't have the money. That's because the transfer portal prices for these players are going up and up and up and up and up. And Syracuse is just kind of like not being able to compete. It's that simple.
I mean, hearing him say nobody gets $2 million except little homie from Ohio State was not a great look. It was not a great objectively, like you said, that money keeps going up and up and up. And but hey, can we talk about somebody's team that we actually think is going to win some ball games next year? Is your
team? Sure.
We didn't have to start with NC State. I just said anybody's team was going to win some ball games.
You'll beat us.
Well, hey, NC State is going to score a lot of points next year. We know that for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we have loaded up on receivers and tight ends and everything you could imagine offensively in the portal. Now, will we be able to stop a runny nose with Robitussin, tissue, and 3 COVID boosters? Probably not, but it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be fun. CJ Bailey's going to set some records next year because, we've got everything you could want out wide. I mean, you talk about excitement in the portal. Every time you look up, this is how much skill position talent NC State has added. We just added a 6'4", 200-pound receiver who is averaging 20 yards per catch. And everybody's like, hey, we don't need any more pass catchers. That's how good the everybody's expecting these pass catchers to be next year. The guys who are supposed to stop the pass catchers, hey, we're figuring it out. It's a journey.
It's a euphemism for they're bad.
It's a journey of defensive discovery, okay? and we'll get there one step at a time. One stop at a time, we'll get there.
How we're going to get those, and they'll suck, but it's okay.
How we'll get those stops, heaven only knows, But
you'll play Malachi Nelson and get all the stops in the world.
Hey, now.
There you go.
We're still working on glasses that make Dave Doran see every team as UNC. We're still working on that technology so that we could get ourselves an undefeated season one of these years, pull off a little Cignetti action. But until then, we'll put up points, and CJ Bailey's going to be great.
All right, well, speaking of UNC, let's give Isaac Shade the last word on what Chapel Bill is up to there in North Carolina.
Well, I think the quietness around, remember this time last year, that was all anybody could talk about was Bill Belichick. And I think the quietness of this offseason is a nice reminder of what is not happening. Now, one of the things about the portal era is the best players are often the dudes you're able to retain and keep. There were not many of those that you wanted to keep around Chapel Hill, but a few that I think are important. Melkart Abujade, who was second in the ACC in sacks between two gentlemen that we saw play on Monday evening. Jordan Shipp is back. He might actually catch a few passes if they can have somebody that can throw it more than 10 yards downfield. Juju June is back, the breakout freshman running back from last year. Bullet Goss is out the door, taking his best Dontrez Styles, Van Allen Lubin approach, heading off to Raleigh. So I think that's really good. I liked Bullet Goss a lot. Obviously, the big question is quarterback. There is a young man who's playing in the AFC Championship this weekend in year 2 in New England, who covered a world of sins for the North Carolina Tar Heels that we've not seen anybody else be able to do since Drake May left. Now we're just watching his wife bake cookies all Bakemas long. You can go look that up. Carolina brings in Miles O'Neill from Texas A&M. Who recruited him to College Station? I'm so glad you asked. A guy named Bobby Petrino, who is now the offensive coordinator of the Tar Heels. Yes, we have removed all motorcycles from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Billy Edwards comes in from Wisconsin. And so I think it's going to be the two of them really fighting it out, because Gio Lopez is gone. Bryce Baker, who I thought really could have stepped up, is transferred. He's gone as well. Travis Burgess is a stud quarterback coming in. He's an early enrollee. So I think it'll be between those three guys. Torrey Newkirk's in the room as well. But the issue for the Tar Heels is what Jackson said about Syracuse. Last year, one of the only things that Carolina had going in their favor had nothing to do with talent. It was all about the schedule. And Carolina had an easy schedule, and they still couldn't make hay. This year, you've got TCU in Dublin, you got Notre Dame, you're at Clemson, at Duke, Louisville, Miami, NC State. Like, it's a much more difficult schedule that, again, is not going to help Carolina. Jackson asked, who can be the next Indiana? I don't think it's the Tar Heels in any way, shape, or form.
Y'all
So
take care of my boy
pessimistic about your team. So pessimistic.
Y'all
You're
take care
gonna
of my
beat
boy
Syracuse
CJ
at home.
Sadler.
Do what, KG?
I said, y'all take care of my boy CJ Sadler over there in Chapel Hill, man. Y'all
Yes.
take care of him, okay?
We'll
That's
do
a
our very
technician. Y'all better take care of him. Well, Chapel Hill is right down the street from Raleigh. I'll come get my boy if y'all don't treat him right.
Yes, sir.
Well, treat CJ Bailey right over there, because if it doesn't work out with Darian Menso,
Tampering! He's a tamperer!
I'm starting to believe that the transfer portal, in terms of submission date, I think is now a vague suggestion.
yeah,
What
it
is
is.
stopping anybody from just deciding to enter the portal? A lawsuit?
Well, Miami got a guy last year, Xavier Lucas, who never actually got into the portal. He
The portal
unenrolled
is just a
enrolled.
suggestion. There is no actual date. Like, you could still do it. Why not? Maybe what they should do is in-season trading. Like, why not? If we're gonna sit here and open the can of worms, I mean, let's start swapping. Let's have a trade deadline. That would be fun. We're selling.
All right, you started to open a can of worms that maybe we'll pop the top on that next week, because we're out of time. But we'll get into that. He's Jackson Holzer from Locked On Syracuse, Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack, Isaac Shade, Locked On Tar Heels, JJ Jackson, Locked On Blue Devils, Morgan Thomas, Locked On Clemson. I'm Alex Stano from Locked On Canes. We'll talk to you next time right here on another episode of the ACC Squad, part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.